Hey, what's up? Yeah, no, I'm about to film a video. What's going on? Oh. You're telling me that this isn't a real phone call and I'm just doing this for a punchy YouTube intro? Okay. What am I even going to talk about today? Hold on. Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Welcome back. I use this channel to talk about my journey with my own mental health and use it as a sort of visual blog, a video blog. Wait, video blog, vlog, vlog. Whoa, genius. I'm at the forefront. I'm at the forefront of technology. I'm at the forefront of industry, and I am just a trendsetter because I don't think anyone's ever done a video log before. Thank you so much for all of your continued support. I really appreciate it, and I'm really grateful for it. Back in my typical abode, I love travel, but I am also a homebody, so I do like being able to come back to my space and be like, this is mine, here I am, and I'm chilling. So what is it that I want to talk about today? This notion of reaching out. I always get so preoccupied with these ideas about what I want to talk about, or, just thinking and getting trapped in, I have to talk about these things, or I have to follow this certain path, or, make a list of things that I need to talk about first, or like making a list so that my channel will always have some type of momentum, I guess, is probably where this is all stemming from. And, trying to find that line of treating this incredibly professionally and diving in fully and really investing in myself and betting on myself and believing in myself in this medium, but also not taking it too seriously so that I don't get burned out or put unnecessary and undue pressure on myself. But the thing that came to mind that I want to talk about today is just reaching out myself. So a while back, and kind of the beginning of all of this, is I made an Instagram post at Mitch's, like everywhere else, baby. Follow me for all of the updates. The onus on me reaching out to people and telling people that, hey, I'm struggling. Because I made an Instagram video a while back, sort of at the beginning of this whole process, kind of talking about how my mental health had really deteriorated and I was really in a not great place. And someone commented basically like, "Oh, I'm sorry that happens," or "I'm sorry you're going through that, and dude, just reach out," or like, "Just tell someone." And I'm not upset at this person at all. In fact, I'm very glad that they said that because it's true, and it's definitely someone offering, saying, "Hey, I only know as much as you're telling, or only as much as you're showing, and so the more you tell and the more you show, the more I'll be willing to help." And so I get that. I'm not attacking this person, far from it. In fact, I'm very appreciative of them for saying that, as I'm appreciative of everyone who reached out. And I know it's always a two-way street. I know that in order for people to reach out to me, I need to reach out to people too, and I can't expect people to in my life to always reach out if I don't reach out either, because that's unfair. I wouldn't put that expectation on myself, and so I don't want to put that on my friends or people in my life. But I take issue with it. I take issue with that feeling of the obligation of me not only experiencing this difficult moment in my life, but then having to have the wherewithal to then communicate it out to someone and then say, hey, I need help. And then on top of that, accepting the help when it's given to me. Because that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. As a reformed people pleaser, long may I rest. God, reformed people pleaser. I should be chain smoking or something. I haven't people pleased in 25 years. Hate the player, hate the game. But it becomes this whole snowball and avalanche of then things that I have to do in order to get what I want, which I guess is attention. I mean, okay, 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 okay. What I've found for me in all of this is I thought I moved past my words of affirmation sort of love language. I was like, I don't really need that from other external people anymore. I kind of just want to give it to myself and relying less on someone else. But, I've been getting some attention for something, and I've noticed how much I still crave that. And this feeling of excitement more than anything else from that attention. So much so that then my mind starts to go very far very quickly in terms of my relation to the person who is giving me that attention. And it's frustrating to just feel it automatically happen or react to it automatically and then only to catch myself afterwards and be like, oh, here we go. Why did I bring this up? I brought this up because I was talking about, oh, right, this avalanche of me having to constantly reach out or me having to come to terms with what I'm experiencing and what I'm feeling. Have the courage to then tell people that I'm feeling that way. Then have the extra courage on top of that to then ask for help. After all of that, accept the help that was given, if it's given. And so for me, that's where I got it to, is that what I've noticed is that I've gotten to that point, and then when I get that attention, it feels so good. And I know that there's a realm in a world where to deny myself that good feeling thing it's this catch 22, right? Where yes, the attention feels nice, and I want to work on that intrinsic attention or the intrinsic affection of giving that to myself so I don't rely on it from other people. But when it's given to me from other people, it still feels nice. And that's a tricky balance, for me at least, because it's easy to forget to give it to myself when I'm getting it from other people, These feelings of attention, I find myself leaning into desperation in terms of attention or desiring that attention. And it's not that I am actually desperate for it, but I just see my behavior like, oh my gosh, okay, it's total cutie. Message me on Instagram. And I found that just from their attention alone, I do the thing that I do. Whereas now I am incessantly checking my phone every 3 to 5 minutes to see if they've even messaged back to keep in mind, folks, keep in mind, my beautiful, beautiful viewers, listeners, watchers, however you're ingesting this media. This is a stranger. This is a person who I do not know. I haven't met. They don't know me. They haven't met me. And yet I am giving them so much of my mind space so freely. And it's not even the inverse of that to say like, oh, they don't even deserve this. They don't even know me, so they don't get it. If you don't get me this, then you can't get me that. But it's the fascination with how quickly I am eager to just give it away. It being my mental space, my attention, my affections, instead of this desire to, and this is the other thing, of course, because we're not supposed to have our hearts closed off. It's a better life to live when you are a little bit more, sorry, my butt's falling asleep. It's a better life to live when you live more open-heartedly and you live with that curiosity for people. It's a better life to live and a more fulfilling life when it is given out. It is. I don't think love is a finite resource. I think it truly is infinite, and our capacity to share that love, our attention and time is infinite. But to give it so freely, or to give it without regard for myself, or give it so lackadaisically that I don't, where I'm basically telling myself, I don't care if I get hurt. I'm going to give this thing out in hopes of getting something back. Right? Is that all I'm doing it for? The hopes of getting something back? I don't even know what I would want back. Affection, obsession, connection, maybe. Maybe all those things. Maybe none of those things. Maybe I just need something to fill the space that I'm too scared to occupy myself. And maybe that space is where the work really lies. And so, this idea of receiving attention or receiving affection from other people is, in and of itself, an avoidance tactic that I'm subconsciously doing so that I don't have to do the work, because I'll be too preoccupied with this other person or this other group or this other job or this other scenario that I won't do it. And I think I've talked about this before. And repetition, I know, is important, especially in rebuilding thought patterns. And so repeating myself again and again to remind myself to do the work. Slight tangent. I get so bogged down by the language that we use, do the work. I think I get mostly frustrated or bogged down with the generality of it. It's like, what is the work? Because it could be so many things. And I know that that's the point, and that's why it is so general, is so that it can encapsulate a lot of different things. Also, because this is not a formula. I know this is not a formula. There's no direct path that we are all supposed to follow in order to heal or grow. It's different for all of us in every capacity. But yeah, I think when you are unsure where to start, generality is not as beneficial, because if it's do the work, what is the work? Feel your feels. Okay. All right. Um, Explore your shadow self. Okay. What is what? And I know that that can take more research and more time and more study, right? For the shadow self, obviously being these things about us that we hide from the world, or the things that we try to avoid showing people, and that being where our growth lies, by looking at those things and learning to love those things. Wow. Oh, I think that this is where, me personally, and maybe you experience this as well. This is where I have my back and forth, is that it's easy for me to intellectually understand the work, intellectually understand where my path is, but the implementation, that's where I get bogged down, because I forget. I get distracted. The internet's super cool, and it's so much easier to just, watch Netflix, Hulu, Max, Paramount Plus, Apple TV, Vudu, Ludo, Tubi, AMC Plus, Prime. Are there more? YouTube Premium. And even that was an example of getting distracted, right? Fell for it. Haha, got you. You fell right into my trap. Now you must like and subscribe, because we were talking about, did you think about a bunch of streaming services that I missed? Think about it. There are really a lot of streaming services. I'm getting distracted. I'm avoiding the work. I'm avoiding talking about the thing. So the thing is, back to my whole thesis of this video. Why is it so hard to reach out? Embarrassment, shame, admitting that I can't do it alone. And maybe that, but why is that embarrassing? Why? Why? Look at me right now, right here, eyes to eyes, lock in. Wait, let me stay focused. Lock in. Why is that so hard? Or why is that embarrassing? Why do I think it is so embarrassing to say I need help and to accept that help? But also, why am I so fixated on somebody else asking me what's wrong? how can they help? And that is just a symptom of the deeper truth, which is me not showing up for myself and me not taking that role for myself. And not in an isolationist kind of strategy, and not in a way to block myself off from the world or block myself off from opening up or keeping my heart open. There's always so much talk about like how philosophy can sort of look at the world around us. I fall into this trap of looking at the world and therefore saying, oh, here's the world, or here's how behavior works. So, yeah, you better change that, or isn't it so interesting that that happens? But reminding myself that I'm also of the world and of the moment because I am an icon and I am incredible. But because I'm of the moment, it's foolish to avoid or remove myself from philosophical concepts that exist in the world around us. Sure, it's nice to sort of implement philosophical modalities and ideals of old and of yore that are beneficial. I think of people who are like, I practice Stoicism. I think it's respectable and admirable. But there is the philosophical concept of the self, right? And sort of this idea of being self fixated. In fact, wait, pause. Philosophy of self versus community? Individualism. Okay. Aha, wow. Through the magic of editing, I look so much more intelligent than I really am. Because of the philosophical concept of individualism, right? I'm pulling up my page so I can read more about it. The theory or worldview that prioritizes individuals over groups, institutions, and shared practices. It emphasizes the well-being of the individual over the group and the belief that each person progresses through their own efforts. Individualistic cultures value independence and personal identity and traits like dedication, focus, and effort versus collectivism. And this model prioritizes the community over the individual and emphasizes the well-being of the group over the individual. Collectivist cultures value unity, selflessness, and altruism, and believe that personal achievements come from shared knowledge, common values, and mutual support. So, this idea that of the individualism, having this maybe desire for more collectivism, of wanting more selflessness and more altruism, but because of the world that I live in, at least here in the West, it is so much more individualistic. And I like that there's no sort of quality to one. I don't think collectivism is inherently better than individualism. I think that they're just different. And I think if you try to live in a collective when you are surrounded by individualism, it can be challenging, especially if you're constantly seeking and finding that community. And maybe that individualism that I think is important and necessary can coexist with that collectivism. Because I guess we all sort of reach for balance, right? Because it would be important to know myself enough and have enough of my individualism to then give myself the things that when a community cannot provide those things, or when a collective cannot provide those things, I can provide those things myself. And the inverse is true. When I cannot provide something for myself, that is when the collective can provide that for me. And then I can provide that to the collective, because I think many of us, myself included, idealize a collective and idealize collectivism because we are isolated and we have, a minimizing amount of third spaces. And so socializing is really difficult. And there's this sort of rose tinted glass idea about collectivism and having this community. And I think that when you see someone and see a group that has that community and you are on the outside of it, the feeling of that community feels so enticing. But what happens when you can't accept, or what happens when I can't accept the opinions and help of the collective around me? And yet I crave that collectivism. I then am in this self-imposed individualism, and then at the same time hate myself so that I don't even benefit or utilize the individualism for my progress. And so, what do we do in those scenarios when we are stuck between a rock and a hard place? Clarity, maybe. Understanding when one is one and one is the other. Maybe just making that decision. Because I think individualism is powerful in that, especially in my scenario for this, to keep it on me, to keep it individual. To keep it individualism. Rather individualistic, if you don't say so myself. I don't listen to people. I crave that attention. I crave those words of affirmation. But when they're given to me, I don't believe them and I don't accept them. And then I don't give anything to myself either. So then I'm just left without anything. And I think that the individualism works for me, or at least my attempt to, in that, because I've never shown up for myself. And so this can be my way of showing up for myself. And I hope you show up for you too, because that is important, to show up for ourselves. And I think that is a wonderful byproduct of individualism, is being able to show up for ourselves and pick ourselves up when it feels like no one else will or no one else can, especially in the battles of mental health, because I only share as much as I am comfortable sharing, but that doesn't mean that that's all that's happening. And I think we both know that so much more goes on inside of our minds than we tell people. And so being able to show up for ourselves and being able to show up for myself means that I know all of those thoughts and I love myself anyway. And that's beautiful. And so then I think being able to love myself even more means that then when I do love other people, I will love them much more authentically, freely, and certainly, especially without expectation or without this feeling of, I love you, you love me. You love me back. You make sure that you give me everything that I don't give myself so that I don't have to give that to myself. So I don't have to do the work of giving it to myself. And then that way, when we show up for better in our collectives, we're able to love more fully and more freely. Yeah, it feels pretty good. I think that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe so you get all of the delicious ooey gooey content. I know you like it. Yeah. I love you. And I hope that if you are someone like me who has spent your life not loving yourself or thinking it's better to love other people before loving yourself, and then you just never got to that step of loving to yourself, and the list of other people that you were told you should love gets longer and longer and longer, and you're putting yourself lower and lower and lower on that list, I'm glad you're here. And I hope that you take some time for yourself today. And if you don't love yourself already, I hope that you learn to. And I hope that you fall desperately and madly in love with yourself, because I kind of want that for me too. And you know what? You're great. No one's told you that today. You're great. Yeah. All right. Bye.